I am Dr. Loren M. Hill, your academic career advancement coach. And we are so fortunate today to have with us someone whose schedule is so packed and busy that I have been trying to get him for probably the last 7 months. So I am so happy that he was able to carve out a bit of time and be with us today. And so I welcome you, Commissioner Bruce Boyden, to our show today. And I'm so grateful that you made time for us.
I'm excited to be here. And actually, Dr. Hill, I thought at first, because I do talk a lot, I said this might not be the best platform for me. However, I'm going to constrain myself and keep focused. But I'm excited to have a conversation with you, especially around what your work and your coaching, working with promising and practicing higher ed educators. It's an area that I have been engaged in, and I think that we need to encourage more people to join, especially people of color, to be involved and get into higher ed. It is a place that they can, there's a little more freedom in teaching at the higher ed level, and it certainly can give you some sense of commitment to the work and to our fight and our beliefs.
Yes. And so, yes, well, I don't mind if you're verbose because we want to hear what you have to say, right? So one of the things that I want to also contextualize is Commissioner Boyden is one of our commissioners here in the state of California, and he is with education. And so that is all education in California. So we've got K through higher ed, including, graduate degrees, et cetera. And he comes with a wealth of experience and actually was a former faculty member as well. So his perspective is one that I think is very unique and we can all appreciate and learn something from, because as he moved through higher ed and into industry and then, was really prolific in the area of community service and ultimately serving on boards and commissionerships. I want us to get a sense today from Commissioner Boyden about, why it may not be apparent that faculty or people in higher ed should pursue these types of appointments.
Well, for me, I think it was important that not only did I want to connect to the community I was in, I also thought it was important that I could gain some sense of knowledge from the experiences of others, whether they were working in public education, public schools, or whether they were working in another school or another university, that serving on boards, commissions, and alike gives you that exposure to be exposed to others who may not be in the field of education, but still to have leadership skills and abilities, that we can somehow make that connect for the external subject matter people to education. Sometimes we believe education is the be all end all, but the reality is that there are others out there that are just as capable and as competent and as intellectually, their prowess for their intellect is great, and we have to open up ourselves to that. So to that extent, that's why I find myself always volunteering, always being a part of these external programs.
So you bring up some very good points, and some that I have mentioned before, but I think definitely bear repeating from someone who sits in a seat such as yours, is the engagement with people outside of your department, your university. Sometimes we can become very siloed or even, dare I say, myopic about what's going on, and engaging with people on these commissionerships and boards appointments, et cetera, gives you a view into something outside of your dailies going on.
Yes, yes,
It could
yes.
be very, I think, stimulating
Mhm.
intellectually, like you said, right? To engage with colleagues or peers from other industries, and even the community.
Yes, and it does help, and basic kinds of things when you're committed to your community, as I am here in the great city of Compton. I
Mm,
attend every council meeting.
mm,
I not only do I serve as a state commissioner for education, I also serve as a commissioner for the city of Compton for
mhm,
public safety. Nothing to do with education, it's all about public safety. But it's my community, it's the life and the world that I evolve in and work in. I find it important. I want to know what's going on in the city. I want to be on top of what's going on in the city. And where I feel that I can be greater support, it helps. And going to city council now is time consuming. I do this every Tuesday of my life. Sometimes I'm wondering, why don't you just leave work and go home and go to bed? But I'm
mhm.
going to miss something. I just know I'm going to miss something. I'm going to miss a fight. I'm going to miss an argument. I'm going to miss something. So I see myself there at the city council every Tuesday night, just going over what is happening. And interesting enough, just to tell you how this connects in such a way, is that even last couple of weeks ago, someone came that they had a proposal to build new housing for
Mhm.
unhoused young people who age out of foster care. Well, I was excited about that. I thought, well, this is a wonderful project for the city to consider building housing for students or children who age out of the foster care. They have no place to go after 18. So I thought this is amazing that this company wants to come in to do housing for these young people. And of course, I can write to the council, I can write to the mayor and express my viewpoint on the importance of serving children of such foster care children who simply age out. So that was an instant I felt that, oh, if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't know about it. I would not have been able to comment about it. So there I find my skill and my ability and knowledge base in education to
Mhm.
support events like housing in the city of Compton. So you do make those cross references and connections that are pertinent to make your city better. So that's one of the advantages of attending.
I think that's amazing. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that we've been focusing on here at the, with Acclivity is making sure that our listeners and viewers know that you are a whole person, right? It's you're not just a faculty member or just an administrator. There are
Yes,
many pieces of you that need to be fed. And
yes.
so this is one way in which you can engage with your community that can give you a bit of a break from what's going on at the
The
university.
day to day, yeah.
I did hear you when you said you kind of go in there with your popcorn and root beer float because you might miss a little dust up, right?
Right.
So, why not going down there and see what's going on
Going on.
while you're
Yes,
also being informed about policies or upcoming,
that's right.
initiatives, and being able to have your voice heard, right?
Yeah.
Public comments, et cetera. The other thing that I want to make sure everybody also continues to remember is this is still connected to your portfolio, right? Making sure that you are networking,
Mhm.
that you have your professional service, you're serving on your institutional committees and you're, you know,
Mhm.
doing journal reviews and the scholarship and all that, which we need. I believe
Mhm.
me, I know all about that. But
Yeah.
I tell you, when I was a chair and when I was an administrator and I was helping people put their portfolios together, I would often encourage them to engage in community service
Yeah.
because it could be the one thing that sets you apart from someone else's, job application or
Yeah.
portfolio, or even if, all things considered, everybody meets everything in the rubric, whoever's reviewing your portfolio, if that's one thing stands out, like, oh wow, this person, is engaged in a
Mhm.
board or a commissionership or some volunteer activity outside of the university,
Yes.
that is going to ring some bells with them. And I'll tell you why. Now,
Mhm.
Commissioner Boyden just talked about this, what we short shrift call TAY youth, transitional age youth, right? Those are kiddos who are in the foster care and then they,
That's right.
they age out.
Mhm.
So we call them,
Mhm.
it's short is TAY youth. So let me tell you about this. So if I was at University XYZ and I was a chair, provost, a dean, or something like that, and I was speaking to
Mhm.
Commissioner Boyden, and then I found out, oh, wait, there's an initiative for housing for a TAY youth over there, I'd be
Mhm.
like, let me talk to them and him about
Mhm.
it because those could potentially be students that enroll in our university. And
Mercy,
we all
yes.
know enrollment drives everything, right?
That's right. That's right.
If
That's
you
right.
are a faculty member or staff and you know Commissioner Boyden, and then you bring this to an
Mhm.
administrator and you
Mhm.
put this initiative forth to kind of bridge it, because in
Mhm.
California, guess what, y'all?
Mhm.
Pay youth have earmarked money for
They do.
college.
They do.
Let's
Lots of it. Lots of it.
lots of it. So let's keep this, we're
Mhm.
threading the needle here, y'all, right?
Mhm.
So it all can work together. And
Mhm.
you have to be in these places and spaces to even try to figure out how it can work together from where you are.
You're absolutely correct, Dr. Hill. And even though sometimes I feel overwhelmed by so many of the activities and projects that I'm engaged in, I also feel that it's necessary for
Mm.
me to be in that space. Not because I think I know it all, which I do know it all, but needless to say, to be in the space so that not only just my voice can be heard, but the voices of people whom I'm engaged with on a daily basis. I
Right.
have another committee I serve on, which I meet with the president of the local community college here in Compton.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at alternative pathways
Mm.
besides the basic degree programs.
Right.
One since the pandemic, enrollment went down to the bottom and they're trying to rebuild. Luckily for the state of California, we are now using a formula for community colleges.
Mm-hmm.
Every community college is going to get paid for 5,900 students, whether they have one or they have 6,000. So the
Mm-hmm.
new formula is going to give us some financial stability. But
Mm-hmm.
my part as a community person serving on this committee with the president once a month is
Mm-hmm.
to investigate, think about new pathways for young people who are not necessarily traditional students per se. Everyone coming to a college isn't coming for a degree.
Right.
They're coming to become employed, they're coming to become useful to their community, their family, so on and so forth. So I'm just so pleased. I've been at this committee for a year, and I do prioritize it in that, we're thinking about some wonderful things for community college. One being AI,
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
We need a pathway at the community college level for people who want to go into that field. It's a new field. It's going to be a new world for all of us. I'm happy to be a part of that kind of work that we're really going to make a difference in. Not, I'm not going to get a degree in business or sociology or psychology, but I'm going to get a degree in AI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are other areas that people can become employable.
Right.
And I'm just grateful for that opportunity. So while I have little less to do with community colleges now per se, they're still an important place for me
Mhm.
as an educator to be in that space. And I'm just giving that as one of the hundreds of things that I'm doing. But I give that as an example that keeps me energized, keeps me motivated, and keeps me coming to work every day. Um, it's exciting. It's exciting.
Well, and it sounds exciting, and
Mhm.
it's palpable. And so I want our listeners to also consider this, because there may be times where you're like, oh, I can't do another thing. And I understand that.
Yeah,
I do
that's
understand
exciting.
it.
Yeah.
But here's what I also understand is, if it's a bit different from what you're doing every day,
Mhm.
it can be inspiring. It can buoy you. You
Mhm.
can get satisfaction of it because you're doing something a little bit different, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm just amazed at this, and I want to talk a bit about sort of the practical
Mhm.
ways in which one may become a commissioner.
Mhm.
When I'm working with people, they're like, I never even thought about that, or sometimes they've never even heard of
Of
it,
it. Yes.
or so I know how to do it, but let's hear it from you. So you fill out an application, or you go
Yeah.
to a this, and what do you do, Commissioner?
Interesting you bring that up because it's twofold, of course. In our city of Compton, and most cities have an opportunity for its constituents to become a part of leadership in the sense of giving information to your council people and your mayor of your city.
Mm-hmm.
So all cities have it, and there is an application process. Um, Fortunately for me, I've had some experience as in oversight of commissions for the city of Compton. Once they did away with oversight, I then have now been placed in public safety. So I filled out the application for oversight. No more oversight. So, but I also put on there wherever I can best be needed.
So let me jump in right there,
Mm-hmm.
because you earlier talked about you're on a state commission for education,
Mm-hmm.
on a city commission for public safety, and those things don't kind of match, right?
Right.
And I know, as an insider secret, which is I'm so glad you just said, that you can fill out your application with your first choice or even second, sometimes even get,
Mm-hmm.
but it is important to also think about something that is just for the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you
True.
an example. When
Mm-hmm.
I did my application, I was encouraged to be a commissioner, and I was like, I'm a licensed psychologist, y'all all know that.
Yeah.
And so
Mm-hmm.
people would automatically say, oh, you should be on the board of psychology. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I should not, because I don't want to do that. I work with psychologists all day. I'm
Yes.
not trying to review ethics violations and
Right.
no, I
Right.
don't want to do that.
Right. Exactly.
But what I can do is, maybe education, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe some. And then as I was thinking it through, the person said, what about, okay, you don't want to serve on the board of psychology, but what about engineers or architects?
Mm-hmm.
And you can sit on the public seat of it because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have license in that. And then you get to give your input as, the public person. And it could be something completely different than you'd ever thought about.
That's
And
right.
so I think that I didn't want you all to miss that when you go
Mm-hmm.
looking for these opportunities, they
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be pigeonholed into your area of expertise. It could be
Mm-hmm.
something that's just, an environmental commission, or a public safety, or there's even one for estheticians, and,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all of those
Right.
types of boards, right?
Absolutely. You're not limited. And of course, my first I guess I would call it my first disappointment was that they cut out oversight. Now, I had done it 4 years prior, and I loved that work. I enjoyed it. It gave me a chance to see all commissions in the city, and I still can go to any commission meeting that there is. However, I'm assigned to public safety, and that's for the city. However, at the state level, the assemblyman himself created these commission slots for his district, District 65, in the state of California, which basically represents approximately 500,000 voters in the state of California, which is only a little drop. California is so big, but I forget, I think we're in 10 cities and basically South Central Los Angeles. He engaged me personally from another experience that he knew about when the college had lost its accreditation. The concerned citizens, which I'm a member of that also, were involved in regaining accreditation for the college. It was a great big fight. And so he knew of my energy and my knowledge base around schools and education. So the commission he created was one for higher ed. This is interesting because we're talking about this. One for higher ed, and then one for education from K through 12. I convinced him, and I'm proud to say, that let's look at the whole span from TK, pre-K to the college level. Because at some point they intertwine with one another. Right. And so now the commission looks at all of those areas from pre-K to secondary education to college. So I'm happy about that move, and there's several other commissioners serving. Again, some of us from non-educational backgrounds, they may just citizens in one of these 12 cities that may be serving. It yet is another opportunity to expand yourself. As much as you think you know, as many degrees as you think you have, as much as experience you've had, and you always leave space to learn something else. And it does take your time, and you do have to give of yourself, but at the end of the day, not only you are enriching other people's lives, you're enriching your life. And it's quite satisfying.
Yes, great. And I also don't want to gloss over this point about you having the ear of someone who's able to make policy,
yes,
and which drives funding.
Yes.
And so these things are really important, and you never know when you might be that person in the room who has something to say about one thing that may seem like, well, why are we doing it that way? And then it's because nobody else ever said anything about it, or we've been doing it this way forever.
All the time, right?
So I really, really appreciate that, and think that we want to encourage our audience to be thinking very broadly about this, because it also has to do with, when you're outside of the classroom or you're outside of your office in the community at large, what these things mean. And they mean part of your impact on society, part of your legacy, being able to speak for people who aren't there, or won't ever be there, who will come long after we're gone, right? These things matter. And my audience knows that I can get real passionate about this kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And again, Dr. Hill, it's not something is natural that you do. You have to see yourself in a way. And again, it has a lot to do with your own personal experiences. My father was a lieutenant in the Compton Police Department as a reserve officer, meaning that he did this for free.
Mm-hmm.
And he
I
also was,
thought they got like $1, which is
I
still
think they
free.
do. I think they do get a dollar. They do
Still
get a
free.
dollar. And he also served as a Boy Scoutmaster for the local
Mhm.
Boy Scouts. So my life has been enriched by models of service. My father really modeled service. My mother was a housewife all the way up until I got to junior high school. And when I got to junior high school, she got a job working in the cafeteria at my junior high school. So I think she just got the job to look at me, to look after me. I'm her last child, and she's been at home all these years, and
Mhm.
decided to get into the workforce when I got into middle school. A, a wonderful life. I mean, a wonderful experience here in Compton. You hear all of these stories about Compton, its environment, the gangs, the this, the that. I don't know that life.
Right.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know that life.
Mhm.
Um, my parents, we raised as middle class children. We
Yeah.
didn't have middle class money, but we had middle class values. And
Right.
my parents made sure we went on vacation every year, money or no money, so these things, your exposures help to make you who you are.
Right.
And having those exposures as a young child, as I became actually probably a teenager, I began to focus myself on other things. I had a solid family background. But at the same time, my parents didn't push me to say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. They let me evolve. So I had that space to evolve. I think I knew I was going to be a teacher since third grade, and I was always this child that did went the extra mile. I remember in my fourth grade classroom, we went and took a general field trip to the U.S. Post Office here in Compton. Nothing major, just a part of the field trip experience for a fourth grader. And I had the energy to take right to the postmaster after the visit. And the postmaster was so, mind you,
Right.
my community was white at the time. I must tell you that too. People
Okay.
believe Compton looks like whatever. It was white. And the postmaster was so impressed with this letter from this fourth grade child. He wrote a letter back and came to my house. So
Oh,
that was exciting in of itself for the postmaster general to come to my house. But it's because of the initiative I had as a fourth grader just to write a thank you note. So those small kinds of experiences let me know when I became an adult and I became into the workforce, public education primarily, that those things mattered. That little note to that teacher that you're teaching, it matters,
yes.
just to give you another experience, even when I was working at the college at the University of the District of Columbia in Washington D.C. I was there working, and I was in early childhood education. I was the professor of early childhood education. And how I got there is interesting also. I worked in the DC public schools. I was a
Hmm.
kindergarten teacher, believe it or not, for most of my career. I taught other grades, but primarily I was a kindergarten teacher and, and in early childhood education. And an opportunity became available where the deputy director wanted to create an early childhood collaborative. So he sought out early childhood teachers from around 80 schools, and he searched for teachers in early childhood education who wanted to participate in this collaborative. And of course, it was something outside the classroom, something different, something exciting. And so I became a part of this collaborative. And we did an annual conference. We were focused on children from birth to third grade. And we just had wonderful experiences because we had money too.
Right.
So, we had a conference every year. We had people like Ella Jenkins was our, keynote speaker,
Mm.
our
Mm.
Barbara Bowman, from the Erickson
Mhm.
Institute, powerful, strong people in the field. Again, an extension of the classroom. I was just an elementary school teacher, but it was an extension that gave me leadership skills, that gave me opportunities to create and motivate others. It was a great experience. And I say that all to say that my supervisor, who was the deputy superintendent, his name was Maurice Sykes, retired and went to the University of the District of Columbia. Well, I had decided by then he was my horse. I was going to bet on him. He never won a race. He was going to be my horse. So I resigned from the district public schools and went to the university. So one of the greatest things I could have done, of course, because I had great latitude at the university. I could talk more. I could engage with adults. I was engaging in children before. Now I'm working with adults. And my parents, and this is back to my upbringing, and I'm the last of 4 children. And my sisters, who are 10 years, at least 10 years older than I am. And I didn't know that they were my sisters until I was 8, 9, 10 years of age. And people say, well, they lived with you. How could you not know that they were your sisters? And I tell people, I thought they were living workers. I didn't know that they had any relationship to me. And people, I laugh about it now. My sisters, of course, get very angry when they hear that story. And so they have a story to double back on me to say, well, we found you in a basket on the front door and we just brought you in. So we're even Steven around there. But I say that to say my parents made me feel like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. So when I became a teacher of teachers, because of that experience, it's one of my taglines I would tell beginning teachers. Every child that walks into your classroom should feel like they're the only child in the world that matters. Yeah. And you can do it. You can do that. You can make children feel special. So I say from my own personal experience, how I transferred those experiences to my experiences working at the post-secondary level at the college. And I tell you, I had a ball when I got to the college. I just felt so much freedom. I felt so much engagement with others who we can have conversations with, who brought stuff to the room. I wasn't the only one talking or giving out information. They brought things to the classroom that enriched all of our lives. So I say that as a point of reference for people who are going into post-secondary education at the college level, that you will find a new world, an absolute new world. That
well,
you can...
I think that all of that is, I mean, you have done a great job of sharing your path, right? And one of my longtime mentors, colleagues, talks about this nonlinear path in higher ed and to and in higher ed. And some of us have them and some of us have linear paths. But I think, what you're saying to us is that it begins at the beginning. Whatever the beginning of your story is, takes you on this path, this journey of life, and it can take you to some really interesting places, some of which you had not imagined, some of them you had imagined. And your story is filled with relationships and connections and networking and moving in these spaces and places. And I mean, we could do this forever. You and I have done this forever. And so what we have to do, though, is go ahead and say, if there were 2 things that you could give our listeners in the 2 minutes that we have left, what are 2 things that you would say to people who are advancing their careers in higher ed and potentially considering some of these positions like public service?
Yeah, I think, well, one I know as a positive, and that is to find a significant other
Mm.
that can make a difference in your life or in your career. It could be your principal, it could be your dean, it could be someone already in leadership. It could be a colleague, a co-worker at whatever level you're at that can inspire you, that can help guide you, that can help lead you. And you don't always have to agree, but you have someone that is significant to you in your life because it will make a difference. And Dr. Hill, you actually met my mentor, which was Maurice Sykes,
Yeah.
who lives on the island part time. Yeah, so you find a person like that, you can't go wrong. The second thing I would tell a person interested in moving into a place of prominence for self is to believe in self.
Mm.
Believe your capabilities, believe in the capacity that you have, believe in the things that you have not seen or heard yet, but feel confident that you can take on the challenge, that you can not only take on the challenge, that you can succeed in the challenge. But you have to believe in yourself. And sometimes that significant other, that other person helps you to believe in yourself. I even think about Maurice in many ways that I would not be in leadership that I'm in now had he not given me the opportunity. And that's what people need is the opportunity. So those are the two major things I think that you can find success.
Those are great.
Mm.
We do talk on this on the podcast about the team, right? Who's on your team. And
Yes.
so having that significant other is important. And I really like the one that you ended with was to believe in yourself because
Mhm.
many times we are in places and spaces where maybe we aren't welcomed or don't feel welcomed or not included,
That's right. That's right.
rejected, looked over, passed over. We could go down the list, right?
Yeah.
Up
Yeah.
and down the list. And
Yeah.
so in those times, looking in the mirror and believing in yourself and really determining, where your efforts should be placed, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you're placing a lot of effort into this thing at this place, and those efforts
Mhm.
could be better served somewhere else. So thank you so much for spending time with us today, Commissioner Boyden. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I know that the audience benefited from hearing your story and getting your words of wisdom and advice. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Hill, for yet another opportunity. I don't know if I should go to the who was on strike with the actors and yeah, I may need to join that place now. I
Well,
feel like
now it's the musicians.
yeah, the musicians, right, right, right.
Mhm.
I believe that I'm TV worthy now. Thank you for
Yes.
the opportunity, and I
Yeah,
hope that the conversation will enrich others in the field and in their lives to make them want to soar to the highest place possible. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Well, thank you all again for spending time with us. And I am Dr. Loren M. Hill, your academic career coach. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Mhm. Thank you.